Hello and welcome back to Quarantine with a K. 10th episode. It's a fun one and it's a special one because we've got one of my favorite conversationalists on the show. I think I've spoken to this guest more than I've spoken to anyone this long 10 weeks of quarantine. Wow, well, at least 10 weeks of the show. So I guess 10 weeks since I accepted that this was quarantine for the long run. But um, without further ado, because I always try to put some effort into the transitions for this, and I always try to put some thought into these segues, but there's really no way to do that with this episode, just because all of these conversations kind of always run in a similar manner. So, welcome to the studio of sorts that we have, Monica Hernandez, better known as Mo.
Hello.
Hi, hi. Welcome to the show. Well, I guess you've been on the show before.
I'm happy to be here in the home edition
Yeah,
studio. Well,
I see that you've got yourself a nice blank wall as well for your background.
yes. I cleaned my room for this.
Very exciting.
But you can't see the rest of my room, but
I keep looking this way.
it felt good knowing that the rest of the room was clean too.
I'm happy for you. I keep looking this way for those of y'all watching this. Not Monica. Monica can't see me, but because I have finally the dual monitor setup that I've been needing my entire life.
Yay.
So I have my main computer here, webcam, and then over here I have like the, I guess, monitoring monitor, so I can like watch the stream while I watch what I'm doing on my computer. But without any other comments, hi. We've talked about your zodiac sign, etc. when you've been on the show before.
Well, no, Yeehaws not my zodiac sign. Hold on. Cancer.
Yes.
I just thought about, so Carla sent me this picture of a crab with a little cowboy hat on it, and that's just what I said zodiac sign, and I immediately like thought that, and I thought of yeehaw, and then remember that yeehaw again is not a zodiac sign. So,
Monica, I'm showing it on stream.
oh, good, good, good. I was like,
It's
I don't know how to
perfect.
explain it.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, if you don't know, you should know by now because we've talked about this before. The sign Cancer is a crab, and Monica and I are both from the same state in the South, and we both very much indulge our yeehaw personalities. Cause like I think what the thing for me is it ties in the fact that we're from the South of the U.S., but also from like the South of North America. So
yeah,
like
this is true.
we've got a cowboy aesthetic regardless of
I mean,
which
yeah,
part of our
yeah, yeah.
identity we
I
choose.
my one of my best friends, she's from Texas, and she's like, I'm more Southern than you, and I was like, no, I'm even down below, like even more, still me.
We're the
Um,
southernest southerners. And you're
Southerners.
from the same part of Mexico that my family's from too,
I'm like
right?
Central
Which is the South
Mexico, so
Mexico.
it's not like South Mexico.
It's kind of south because Mexico's shaped weird. It's shaped like a jalapeno kind of, and so central Mexico still kind of like is southish.
Okay. I mean, relatively speaking, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I'll concede it. I'll allow it.
All right,
I'll allow it.
so we have some topics. We have some things to discuss. Again, there's just no way to segue into it, but it is
Can you?
kind of it follows the pattern of Monica and mine's normal conversations anyway. So I asked her, I was like, hey, do you want to be on the show? Because we were talking, and I was like, this is a really interesting conversation. We should continue this on air. And later on, I was like, so have you decided like some specific topics to guide our conversation? And she said, I think she said like, well, conspiracy theories, aliens maybe, or Percy Jackson. I was like, oh, we're all over the place with this one. But the
I
thing
think
that
I
they all
was
had in
sprinkled in
common,
that in there.
yeah, 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 exactly. And the thing that they all have in common is like it's about metaphysical like entities
Yes.
of sorts.
Let's see it. Let's see it.
So if you've been on the internet, I'm sure you've seen this trending. It was released a while ago, and I have a friend, like an internet friend, that always likes to like talk conspiracy theories, like whenever the government like releases information, like everything's redacted, of course, but like whenever they like make stuff to the like available to the public, he'll always like have it and it like send me just like the rundown of it because like I'm not gonna read through those things, like they're so long.
For the government.
But turns out the government at some point was attempting astral projection.
Every time I hear it, it makes me laugh also.
Governmental astral projection. What is up with that?
Ooh, I just, I just, would you like to explain it, Carla, before we like dive into it? I
Yeah,
have,
so astral projection is, I know people get it confused with lucid dreaming, right? Lucid dreaming is when you're like aware that you're dreaming enough so that you can like control your dreamscape, your dream environment. Um, but astral projection is more like out of body experience. So it's like having like the brain power and like the, I guess, will of mind in order to intentionally experience an out of body experience. And it's thought that through this, you're capable of traveling like outside of yourself, like through the universe. So it's not like whenever you hear stories of like people are like watching themselves like sleeping or something like from a different perspective, it's like you use it in order to like expand.
just like a conscious state. Like there's no physical, no solid
Yeah, exactly.
in your
Like,
mind, if you will.
yeah, like there's no being. It's just like the energy, I guess, that you can perceive.
Souls. Like I feel like I think about it like souls, like anything that's like it's like living, but it's not a doesn't have a body, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. That's an interesting way to put that. But I think what made me like the most interested in this, because like I said, I'll kind of see this and I'm like, that's a lot to read through. I'm just gonna see like what the summary of it is. But what drew me to this was that in the thing, let me pull up the picture because I have it here because someone posted a picture and it went kind of viral on Twitter. They say,
Is it the one that you sent me?
yes. So I sent this to Monica. This is where this all kind of stemmed from. But it says the you have to be intellect react to possible encounters with intelligent, non-corporeal energy forms when time-space boundaries are exceeded. What does that mean? How do you prepare to meet? And hi, Yummy. Yummy's in the chat. How do you prepare to meet an external energy form that has no body? It's just energy. Like, how do you read the vibes?
How do you read the room? I, when you first sent me that, my first like initial reaction though was like, how do we actually know that exists?
Yes, true.
There's no. I mean, if we knew how to do that, I think we would have gotten religion down pretty quickly. You know.
Very true. Very true. Like, why don't we just astral project to God? I guess,
But
do I have to disclaim that we're both like Christian and that we mean no disrespect?
no disrespect whatsoever, Christian. I think the Bible
However, why don't you
first.
why don't you astral project to God?
I I want that as like my new Twitter headline thingy.
Why don't
Because
we
right now,
astral project to God?
because mine right now is due to personal reasons. I will become God, so now I'm can do
Hmm.
astral to God. I
I
just
mean,
there was just so many questions. I'm like, how do we know that there's like an actual uh, beings
yeah.
out? For all we know, we generally are alone in this universe. You know,
Yeah, we
I
don't
think,
know is the thing.
but I still want to know how someone pitched this to like whoever, like the money people, like, hey
Well,
guys, you know,
it's not like a secret that the government's into some like weird stuff. Like there was all the mind control experiments with like LSD and like brainwashing and hypnosis, etc.
although you know I get that more though because like you can see the effects of LSD, you can see the effects of like all these
So it's
things
like
that
a
you
visible, tangible experiment.
yeah there you know there's things we can record from that, but like how you gonna okay you saw God like
You saw God? Wow, weird flex, but okay.
No, and then there's so many people that like claim to die and then like go to heaven or whatever, like heaven or hell or whatever, and then
Yeah,
they're like, oh my gosh, I saw God, and so you're like, well, first of all, are we killing people? So just bring them back to life. Can you
dog.
imagine? Just kill them for like 5 minutes and be like, all right, bring him back.
Roll the tape back. I wonder
But
if that's a thing that they do. Like, because there's, I don't know what it's called. I read about this in a book about a teenage spy, but there's some, like, there's some, like, drug or something that can, like, slow your heart rate down enough that someone testing for, like, signs of life, like with a pulse or something, won't detect that you're alive.
no, I think that's that's a real thing. I'm pretty sure that they.
So it's like, does the government experiment with that?
Well,
Uh,
I feel like with that though, that's different though because you're purposely. Actually, no, I don't know. Never mind. So you're
Miss,
purposely saying it, and it's just kind of like it's. No, I don't know.
yeah. Messiah asks, have we seen Insidious?
I haven't seen Insidious.
I've seen Insidious, and I think
Which
it's
one is
kind
that
of on
one?
that wave. Insidious is the one where the kid goes into the like the weird alternate dimension thing, right? I know it's creepy, and there's a scene where he's like walking through, and there's like a clock on the wall, and it's ticking. I know that doesn't tell you anything about which one it is. There's a lot of red in it.
Oh, yeah. No, Carla, what? Red in a horror movie? That's blood. You mean blood?
Look, man. All right, Insidious. Parents take drastic measures when it seems their home is haunted, and their comatose son is possessed by a malevolent entity. Does that
Mm,
sound familiar to you?
that sounds like every other horror movie, but
It's this. You can't see it. I don't know why I keep showing you, but
I feel like you trying to show me things that I can't
I
see
have, I
you.
have. But it's kind of like that, right? They try to like talk to this other entity, and I there was another movie. I don't know if it's in the series, but there was another horror movie where they try to bring this girl back to life, but she comes back like all weird and evil, like without a soul.
Oh, is that Lazarus? That's Lazarus Effect.
Yes, it is. It's Lazarus Effect.
Yeah, because they were. I remember they were testing it, and then because they did it on a dog or something, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's successful!" And I'm like, "Okay, cool, it's a dog, and we're humans." But then like an accident happens, and like one of the girls died, but like her fiance was there or someone, and he was like, "Yeah, do it." And I was like, "Okay, just violate all the rules of science, but whatever."
Yeah.
Um,
So do you
what
think that
I think
astral
it's
projection is that? Do
sorry,
you
that
think astral projection violates the rules of science? Or do you think it just pushes the limits of science?
I think when you start talking about like entities and stuff like that, you're already breaking a lot of rules of science
That's
because
fair.
I mean, obviously we can't explain. If we could explain that, like again, religion, we'd either have like a set religion or we wouldn't, because we discover, oh,
Because
they're
we would
not
be
real.
able to see it. We'd be able to like reach it through astral
Or,
projection.
yeah, or like maybe not even see it, but have like evidence
We'd feel the
behind
vibes.
the vibes, read the room, you know? And so I feel like that's why science and religion, not that they don't mix, because I think you can find a beautiful balance between
I
both.
think they complement each other. I think they fill in the gaps or the
Yeah.
other.
But I also think that it's a really complex equation, if you will, you know?
Yeah, because science is all about proving things that you can like
So it's
see
like
or
tangible.
experience.
Yeah, it's like, I think about the enlightenment, it's like everything.
Yeah.
Do it, you can see it, you can record it. But and even then though, you still leave room for like a margin of error,
Mhm.
something slightly unexplainable.
Yeah,
But
apparently in Insidious, the kid is able to travel to the astral plane. So that's the connection for Insidious to this conversation.
uh,
Okay,
well, see this. Well, but then, if he's already being possessed by that entity, I feel like that kind of makes sense that he's able to like the same way the entity is able to like be in him, he's able to like travel to.
yeah, because in the movie, I think it's like he was doing it, and then that's how he got possessed. Because basically, he like went too far, and he was like messing with stuff he shouldn't have. But like, if the government is doing astral projection, how do they know they've gone too far, right? And how will they know if somebody comes back possessed? Because I'm assuming these entities are mad smart, so I feel like they'd be able to pass off. Because if they possess you, wouldn't they be able to like, I guess, read your mind and like,
Well, I guess then that well, I mean, I guess I guess it depends on what you think of entities. Because for me, I don't know, when I was thinking about, maybe it's just me the way that I think about it, but like for me, like all the entities were kind of like, I don't want to say like good, but like I don't know. I feel
Neutral
like
at least?
there's a difference between like, because I'm thinking like God, angels, like that kind of thing
Hmm.
when you're talking about entities, and I feel like that kind of energy is very different to like say a demon or like
But see, that's all
that
positive
kind of
energy.
feeling.
And my question is, what is the government going to do? Because right now they're just expecting to find something, right? Probably along the lines of like aliens, parallel dimensions. However,
Mhm,
there's always going to be a sort of power play if they encounter it, right? So is it going to be a
mhm.
positive energy that can be subdued or conversed with, or is it going to be a negative energy that needs to be like headed off like with a war, like as
Um,
much of a fight that you can have in the astral plane.
you know what? Also, you just said that, and what I thought of is like time. Like, what does that mean in terms of time? Like, if we're able to like make this happen or whatever, like, what is it going to mean? Like, if a person is going to be there for what, 5, 10 minutes, or I don't
And
know, like
how
how
does that
long?
translate?
Yeah, how does that translate to like an entity's time? Because if I don't know, you think there, well, because I think about the Bible, and it says God, one day is like a million years, and like a million years is a day, or those are, don't quote me on that. I don't remember what the exact,
You've
what the
read more of
date,
the Bible than I have, so I won't even weigh in on
but
that.
there's like, there's just somewhere that he says that, essentially that like a really long time is like one day for God and one day is like a million years type of thing. And
Yeah.
so it's like, what does that look like,
Well, that happens with astronauts too, just like going to another planet, like time is perceived differently in space.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it reminds me of Interstellar.
Yeah. In the thing I sent you though, I remember them saying that like it had to do with sleep, like your sleep patterns and like sleep frequencies.
We were looking at frequencies of something in sleep, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that's interesting because we've been talking about that on the show about how the moon has been affecting all of our sleep and so has the quarantine. So do you
I
think
think I
that,
remember that Amen was in that chat, and she was spinning truth, I think.
yeah, Amen was bringing in some like metaphysical tea.
She knew.
But like,
Oh,
does this mean that it would make it easier to do so under certain like uh circumstances presented by just like the surrounding world? Like, does it go beyond like what your mind can access, but like also can it be affected by other sources of energy and influence?
I don't know. That's a weird one. But like, how does a human come back from that though? Like again, supposing that which I don't think this is a thing that's like doable to begin with.
You don't think astral projection is possible?
I don't think we'll be able to achieve what they want to achieve.
What do they
To
want to
have meaning,
achieve?
I don't know. But like, well, I mean, like, I guess meaningful like contact with like a higher entity or
Yeah.
something. I don't think that's okay. Well, I'm looking at it also from like a Christian perspective. I think
Yeah.
about God, I think about angels, and to me, if if it was something, I don't know, like I feel like if God wanted you to see him, you'd be able to see him. And so I
Hmm.
feel like the fact that they haven't shown themselves, if you will, um, means one, like, I mean, probably we're not worthy, which I don't blame them. But like, how is that something we can handle? Like
Like, would
I
we be
don't
able
think
to like
you can't
experience
feel
it?
it. It's not fathom it.
Right.
Like we're very not like we're not, we break easy, like we can't handle, I don't think we'd be able to
Can't
handle
handle the
it.
truth.
I don't It reminds me, what it reminds me. I watch Rick and Morty a lot, and I think you know this. But like it reminded me of, because in one of the episodes, Morty or whatever was like trying to like level something, and he had the little thingy with the little bubble or whatever.
Sure.
The level thingy that you put on top of things before you like colgarlo, like
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like for
make sure it's level and stuff like
uh-huh,
that.
uh-huh.
And like, Rick goes off on him because he's like, true level, whatever, whatever. And he supposedly makes something that can show Morty what true level actually feels like. And he's like, all right, like you can step into it or whatever. And he steps into it. And then like Morty's sister comes and's like, oh, we gotta go to school and stuff like that. And they take him out of it. And he like has a breakdown because he's like, the world is crooked. Like I can't, I gotta go back to that or whatever. And of
Yeah.
course, it's like a cartoon and everything's exaggerated, and they have time travel, so it's obviously not real, whatever. But it
Hmm.
makes you think, like, if we said, if again we achieve this thing or whatever, how can a human being come back to just living in this world after seeing what they've seen?
That's true. That's a really good point, I guess. Because once you, like, it's kind of like if you were able to all of a sudden see a different color or something. Like,
Hmm.
how would you come back to an existence where that doesn't exist and where nobody else knows about it and no one else can picture it? So even if they believe that you think you experienced it, they don't have that experience to relate to, so they're not going to be able to engage in a
There's a frame
meaningful,
of
like,
reference for it, like,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
what you compare it to.
Right.
Coffee is a god, but that's a discussion for another. Okay, that's
I
another
want to go
chat.
back to something you said about how would you be able to come back from it, because in the thing that the, I don't know if it was the FBI or the CIA or the NSA, one of the government people, I'll probably find that image and link to it in the description box if y'all want to come back to this afterwards. But in the thing it says that, like, the way to enter it is something about, like, through post hypnotic suggestions as well.
Yeah, you see, I remember reading about it, like,
So,
pretty
like,
much
if you have
again.
to trigger yourself into this state of mind where you can astral project, how do you snap out of it? I feel like that's also where people get confused with lucid dreaming, which is like you control your sleep state. But in astral projection, you're genuinely having an out of body experience. Like, you're not in yourself. And I know there have been talks about this with Christianity as well, right? With um, people who claim that they can, like, sense angels and, like, they can act genuinely, like, hear the messages of God or whatever, or like whenever a loved one passes away, they're able to, like, sense that energy and say they're okay. Who was that lady on TV? Sylvia Brown. Is Charlotte in the chat? She knows about it, or my mom does too.
In the
But
chat.
Sylvia
She's
Brown used to do that. She is in my house, but she's over there, too far away to hear.
Hi, Charlotte. I don't know if she can hear me.
I'll send her this clip of the stream. But I know that's been something that's like they can experience it, but how do they come back into themselves?
I will, okay, from my personal experience, I think that's more of a, what's it called? Like you psych yourself out about something, and so you feel it. Like if you get a bug bite,
Oh, and that's all
and
you can think about or something?
yeah, that's all you can think about. I think, well, again, my belief.
Yeah.
People can agree or different opinions about it, but I don't think that, like, when people say, like, oh, they can feel their like dead loved ones or things like that, I think that's just them grieving for that person, or
So
like,
you don't think that has to do with astral projection? Like, they're not genuinely, like, leaving themselves to interact with this form?
no, I think no. I no, I think it's just like it's your human subconscious, like you do something that may have reminded you of them, or like you put yourself in a situation where, like, you can imagine yourself what that loved person would say, or like what they would do, and so your subconscious is like, oh yeah, they're here with me,
Mm-hmm.
or like I felt them while I was doing this, or like, eh, you know, I feel like the human mind is a powerful thing sometimes, yes, but I don't think it's powerful enough to do astral projection.
Right. Okay. So so you don't think this is at all a possible thing that the government is doing, or do you just don't think it's going to be possible to the extent that they might want it to be?
I think it won't be possible to the extent that they want it to be, and also I don't know. I'm a little bit conflicted because I'm like, yeah, I think you could alter a person's mind or state of being and create what could feel like a, and what's it, whatever they're calling it, like this
The out of body
state,
experience?
yeah, like an out of body experience. And I feel like you can really trigger that in a person and stuff like that. But I don't know how close it would be to anything authentically non-corporal,
Right.
because for me, the thing is, like, you're altering the person's state of being. You're fabricating this illusion almost.
Do you think it has to do with how much of your kind of going into limitless here, because this has turned into, like, movie theories instead of conspiracy theories, but do you think it has to do with how much of, like, your, like, I guess mental power you can actually, like, engage at once, because I know people said, like, it used to be a thing on the internet, like, that was shared everywhere, like, you only ever use 10% of your brain, and it's like, no, it's that you use like 10% like at a time, like per uh
Activity, if you will.
yeah. So it's like, do you think people that are able to like tap into more of their like mental capacity, do you think they're more likely to succeed in this? And those people would probably they probably would be written off because, like you said, there's no frame of reference for anyone else. Like, if you can't explain an idea, if you can't like not dumb it down, but if you can't like,
There's just like I just feel like there's what comparison can you give in like a physical world? You know,
yeah, like if you experienced it but you have no way to translate that into like normal everyday speak,
because you're talking
like
about like other planes of existence. Like we're, if we're like a line, how are you going to explain things that are 3D? You
yeah,
know,
right,
like there's no real way to do that, and I think one could go crazy trying to explain, trying to figure it out, trying to
yeah. I think A
conceptualize.
Wrinkle in Time described it like that. Did you ever read A Wrinkle in Time?
No, no.
In A Wrinkle in
What's
Time, they describe it similarly, where they're like 1D is like one line, 2D is a square, 3D is a cube, and 4D is a cubed cube. It's a tesseract. And then if you just like imagine that like expanding, then you have 5D, 6D, 7D, whatever. And like you can't picture it because it doesn't exist in your realm of like of I don't know, existence.
of just like existence?
The fact
You
that we don't even have the words to describe like this
no, there's
imaginary plane, I
not.
think that's what like it comes down to. Like we don't even have the knowledge of how to picture it and how to translate what like whatever it is I'm imagining, there's no way I can explain it to you because that doesn't exist in our realm.
No, like it's just I'm like, all right, like okay, you can try, but I don't know how successful you're
I
gonna
guess
be
it
in.
comes down, even if they succeed, what's the point?
Yeah, honestly, what is the point of this?
Um, Webex just told me that the meeting is gonna end in 5 minutes, so I guess they got rid of their no limit thing. Um, but you can just rejoin the meeting room, I guess, because it's not a meeting link. It's just my personal meeting room.
Wait, what?
Just click the meeting link again after it kicks you out.
Oh, I was like, wait, because I thought you were talking about like I'm on YouTube. I was like, wait, I'm not on there.
No. The stream is running. It's just the WebEx thing that's not wanting to cooperate.
What?
All right, this is good to know. This means that for future episodes, I'm not using WebEx. Facebook Messenger calls.
Facebook Messenger. Ah, Facebook, we love it. I love Facebook.
Oh, we didn't even speak on the conspiracy theory aspect of this, which was, do you think this is connected to the MK Ultra mind control, like half of the weird government experiments? Like, do you think that's why they want to astral project? Do you think it can be weaponized?
Mm, no, simply because I just like how are you gonna weaponize something you can't picture, like you can't explain. I mean, I feel like it goes back to that same argument. Like, how are we gonna explain it? How are we gonna like expand on something that we can't
You don't
even?
need to experience
I'm
it.
not
If some negative energy comes and just yeets you out the window, that's it. Even if you believe it or not, it
like,
happened.
okay, bold of humans to assume that we could control entities of any kind and they just won't mess with us. That's a
This
weird
is
American
true.
way of thinking.
We don't know what their morality is.
No, and why would they listen to us? We're simple beings, they're entities. Like they don't need a physical state to live. They live.
They have transcended the physical plane.
They're at 2.25, you know? We can never achieve.
Monica experiences life in 1.5x. The entities experience it in 2.25, dude. That's crazy.
Like, how would we like we can't catch up? And then it's just like, yeah, no, I think that's no. So that's what I think though, because it's like, well, first again, I don't think it's a thing we could achieve, and secondly, like, why would they listen to us? Like, I feel like if they wanted to get involved in human affairs, they would have done it without our intervention. What possible argument can we make towards an entity that would convince it to intervene in our matters?
This is true. It's kind of like they're too big for us, right?
Yeah, like they probably look at us and just make fun of us, our problems.
I've heard this argument. I don't want to start like a big topic because I don't even know when this meeting is going to crash, but we'll segue this into the next one. But like, I've heard this argument about God too, because I know you wanted to
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that. About how like people are like, why or why not? And God, what if like the answer is just God's not even paying attention because that's such a trivial thing in the like grand scheme of things.
Yeah, honestly, like our problems that seem big now, grand scheme, like it's not gonna have an impact in like 500 years or whatever. Like, or actually, it maybe
Or
might. I
will
don't know.
it, right? Or will
Who
it?
knows? But like, if you're all knowing,
Like
I
you'll know that like, dang, that
don't
sucks, but
know.
it's fine.
Yeah, like it's just
Percy Jackson says that too about the Greek gods. Woo, that segue.
there we go.
But in Percy Jackson, they have that, right? Where like the gods all know they have like kids, but
Yeah, they just
they're
feel
concerned
as
with
if
like godly
like,
matters.
yeah, they're just like we got bigger fish to fry. Not really. They just
Poseidon be like, am I right?
well, what I loved about Percy Jackson though was that like Percy was just kind of done with them. He was like,
He was so over it. He was like, get
oh
over yourselves.
yes, huh?
He was just so
Hmm.
over it. He said, get over yourselves to the gods.
Yeah, literally, like he was just. I loved him. I think that's where my love for going against authority started. Homeboy
Percy
really just
Jackson.
Percy Jackson just said, "F all of y'all,"
They say
and
question authority, but Percy Jackson said disregard authority completely.
yeah, he just he did what he had to do, and I love that as a
And it paid
boy.
off because he needed to do it to survive. Had he listened to every figure of authority that he had in his life, he would have got by the first monster to face him.
But he's
Yep, there we go. All right, let me restart the meeting because WebEx has decided that they're reinstating their limit. I really thought they'd keep it going, but I guess not. But that's frustrating. At least it lasts a little bit longer than Zoom. All right, let's see if Monica's still here. Are you here? Hold on. We have no audio from Monica. We might need to fix this. Wow, we stand. Let me fix my audio settings because I can't hear a single thing that's happening. Alright, speak. Hello, hello.
hello. Can you hear me now?
We're back! That's frustrating.
That was. I love how I said stop and it stopped, or I said no or something.
Monica, you're too powerful. You willed this into existence.
Spoke into existence, you know.
What was that?
I don't know. It's just Percy Jackson. It really got me going, in
Right,
life. It's just again said F all of y'all and just did his own thing, and it worked out for him in the end. I was like, I want to be like Percy Jackson, and then cue teen rebellion area.
exactly. Um,
We
going
love to see it.
going off of that, do you think that it's possible for Greek mythology to exist as a fact, to coexist as a fact with Christianity?
I feel like I have to say no simply because the big difference is monotheism and polytheism.
Right. But
Also, the thing with that too, like, sorry, side note, but like, it was a very climbable hill that they thought they lived on. Well,
Olympus.
I don't understand why no one just said, "I'm
What
gonna
if
go
they
check
try
it."
to climb it but they just kept falling, like Mount Everest,
Maybe
and
they
only
should have
some
said
people got to the
Everest.
top, and that's where the
They should have
demigods
said
came from?
Masters.
Well, listen, listen, listen. Here's why I think I differ. And in Percy Jackson, this is said too, because Percy asks, wait, does this mean God is real? And the guy's like, that's God with a capital G. We don't concern ourselves with the I think they say with the metaphysical.
With the
But
metaphysical.
the Greek gods are like lowercase gods, right? Like, what if
Hmm.
there's like, and this isn't just for Greek mythology, my mentality, I think I might have said this on the show before. If not, here's my belief system out for the whole internet to see. But like, what if it's like central, like one God, right? Capital G God, whatever name you
Yeah.
want to give him in whatever religion you have, like, there's the God, right? And then there's like the the next tier of beings, right? Say that God created like the Greek gods slash Roman gods slash all these like different like minor gods,
Sub gods.
quote unquote. Huh?
Sub, like little sub.
Sub gods, sure. Like just beings that are in his image. Again, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see it, but in his
I,
image with more just with more abilities, right? More power. And God was like, this is problematic. I should make the next round of beings a little less powerful. And it just kind of like keeps going down that list until you reach
okay.
humans. Like, what if that's the thing?
Mm, well, you know what? I kind of see how that would make sense. Because I think, I mean, this is kind of like a different, very different, but also for some reason makes sense in my mind. But like, if you like read at the beginning of Genesis, or not the beginning of Genesis, I think Genesis 6. Don't quote me though. But
Mm-hmm.
with Noah and what? Yeah, Noah. Genesis 6, something like that. But like, because they talk about the children of like fallen angels and humans, they talk about it very briefly. So for me, I think it would be more plausible to have like maybe not gods like the Greek gods, but I don't want to say supernatural beings, but like
Uh huh.
something higher than humans. I don't think anything like Greek gods, but I think there's like a possibility for there to be like something more than like human, if that makes
Would
any sense.
that translate into aliens?
No.
So you don't think there's another higher being like within this universe?
See, my okay, yeah, and I don't think people come at me for this, but I don't really believe like in aliens and stuff like that, but like I think it plausible for there to be like mermaids and shit stuff. Like I'll accept it. I'll accept mermaids. I'll accept fairies. But I for some reason I can't get behind
Aliens
aliens.
is where you draw the line.
But again, I think it goes back to the fact that I know, that they briefly mention things like that in the Bible. But it really is just like they mention it and it goes.
Right.
Like I'm like who's we don't know what happened to them. We don't know.
Just like passerby creatures, if you will.
Yeah, and I know also in I don't remember what other book, but they like briefly describe things like large reptiles and things that like people haven't been able to explain like what exactly is that. They're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we think it's dinosaurs, we think it meant this, but like no one's sure. So there are several places in the Bible where things are like explained that we are not really sure what it is. So that's why for me, you say mermaid, you say fairies. I'm like, okay, maybe like I don't know. It seems like that's something that could be, but I don't just aliens. I I can't get behind
Do you
it.
think it's just because they're not a part of this world that you don't believe in them? Because everything else that you've mentioned could exist within this planet, within this ecosystem.
I think yeah, I think that's just like what I have the biggest issue with is that it's not this world, because yeah, I think back to the creation, and like we're made in God's image, and He made all these animals for us to govern over,
Mm-hmm.
um, but when He does go, oh, and then He yeeted some people off to other planets,
Yeah,
like His rough drafts are over in Mars.
right. So you're telling me that the Mars rovers are just hanging out with the rough drafts of humans?
That first draft, that unsaved one.
That was the autosave recovery file.
He was like, I don't like these. Let's send them
That's why
off.
it's similar to Earth. Like they think we could exist here, but just not quite, because he just hadn't gotten that far in the build, and he just started.
It's like the draft he started, but then halfway through he was like, you know what? I think I got to start from scratch, but I don't want to delete.
Let me keep this one just in case.
He's like the backup plan. We're gonna put it over there.
This is the file he had on his second monitor.
It's his little backup. Yeah, so I think that's why that's so hard for me because I definitely a lot of people, friends I have like in high school and stuff like that when you talk about it, and like, so you think mermaids and fairies and stuff are possible, but like aliens aren't. I'm like, just, there's
But now you have the explanation, which is that they're not a part of this world. Like you have a pretty like I don't want to say like understandable because that like puts everything in a different frame, but you do have like a solid reason for your beliefs.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I feel like if someone gave me like a good plausible or like
Well, you
theory or
just gave it yourself. That was the yeet of the rough draft.
yeah, but like I don't know. Maybe I have to think about that one. I have to think about it a little more because
I just think it's crazy that this is a conversation we're having at 11 on a Sunday, but it's also a conversation that went through who knows how many tiers of government officials.
oops, they just need to leave everything alone.
Do you think they're gonna like open a rift in space time?
I wish they would, and then all the government officials just went in there for scientific purposes only.
Right, of course.
See what happens to them.
Just to see. Like they're so brave and bold about discovering it. I go see what's up.
Hey, go discover it. Come
I don't
back.
know. I do think that they've and this might just kind of be because I've always been into this genre of entertainment, like kind of like in with the Avengers, right? Like that was a government project. Or there's a book series called Gone in which some so long story short, meteor crashes into Earth. Meteor has little bacteria things. It just so happens to crash into a nuclear plant, so it explodes. Kids all of a
Actually,
sudden have powers. The government apparently has been known and has been like keeping tabs on them, has been researching them. They just never made it public.
government keeping tabs on people just that should automatically be a red flag.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
just let them have powers.
But I think that's why I'm so quick to like not
Mm-hmm.
accept it because like they're messing with stuff that shouldn't be messed with, right? But like that's why I don't doubt that they're doing more than they let on because if this is the information that they've published, like that they've made accessible to
Then
the
behind the
general
scenes.
public, exactly. So who knows what they've actually seen or like the X-Files even. Like who knows what it is that they're seeing, what they're experiencing, what they've witnessed but have no explanations for, so we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, no, I don't, yeah, no, now that you said that, I really don't know what's going, I really don't want to know what's going behind the scenes. Like, what do they exactly do, like, actually solidifying and saying, yeah, this is where our plan, our treatment is going to start.
Like there's no way of
How many
telling,
guinea pigs are they going to go, like, human guinea pigs are they going to go to?
bruh.
How do you sign up for that?
Would you
How
sign
does,
up for that?
how does someone, like, like, you submit an application, like,
No,
email them, be like, y'all
bro,
got
they
any weird
in your
things?
house. Some guy in a suit shows up to your house and he's like, "You've been selected for the government. Respond now." You can't see me, but I did our little finger guns at the screen. That, yes. Like I
Say
feel like
you
they
were
just show up and
chosen.
they're like, "You've been chosen. Do you accept or do you accept?"
Oh, yeah, no, because, like, I've always wondered that, like, how do you sign people up for, like, those things? Like, yeah, like, and do you tell them everything that goes on? Because I feel like if you told me everything that you're gonna do, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that.
I don't think you have a choice once you're like chosen. Or maybe that's what happens to like the CIA rookies. They're like, "You want to prove yourself to us? Go in the astral projection chamber."
Stop. No, you do something wrong, and your punishment is just, all right, it's your turn.
Boss, you said it was Ramirez's turn to go see the entity that has a non-corporeal energy.
And just that's it. That's chosen. Like the same concept. Sorry, this is like a really, really different, but also kind of the same. Back when they were working on Shrek, they were working on another movie in that same studio or whatever. And
Prince
whenever
of
someone
Egypt,
did a bad
right?
job on something, yeah, Prince of Egypt. And then whenever someone did something wrong, they just got sent to go work on Shrek. And that was punishment. Like you had to go work on Shrek.
That is amazing. I totally forgot about that, but yeah.
That they wish they would have gotten in trouble so they could have worked on Shrek.
Because we've all seen Shrek. I don't think I've ever seen Prince of Egypt.
I think I've seen it like twice, but like that doesn't leave like oh God, I feel so bad. That's Prince of Egypt. That's like a biblical story, but like that didn't leave an imprint on my life as much as Shrek did.
I didn't even know it was a biblical story.
Well, Prince of Egypt. Oh, I get it. Okay, I don't want to say Mall of Egypt. It's like, yeah,
There's other brains in Egypt.
yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I mean, but yeah, I'm like 90. Okay, now you kind of made me doubt myself, but I'm like 97% sure that's a biblical
Yeah,
movie.
it sounds like it would be because of the net or the studio. I mean, but
It's not just.
you really just said Shrek had more of an impact on your life than Prince of Egypt.
I mean, Shrek was kind of it's a cultural reset, if you will, when it came out.
What does
Smash
that mean, Monica?
the soundtrack alone.
The soundtrack alone, honestly, a soundtrack will make or break any movie.
Yeah, so I don't want to say, we're not gonna go there. We're
Go
gonna
there.
continue.
Please go there.
Say if they just made, if they just made biblical movies as interesting as Shrek, I feel like a lot more of us would be watching them.
A lot more people would
Support, support Smash Mouth and Prince of Egypt. Fit in
Yo,
from somewhere.
this is what God's Not Dead and all of the Christian movies have been doing wrong, has been not getting the right bands to play for their songs.
I just jazz it up a little bit, like VeggieTales cannot be the most exciting biblical stories I see. They're
Bro, they're talking vegetables. I don't know how much more you want.
List of things I didn't want. Talking vegetables. My
That.
child even listens to vegetable. Half the time they just want to spit them out and never see them again. Who thought of this?
Maybe they were trying to give kids a reason to not like vegetables. They were like, but mom, the
They're giving
carrot
them a
told me
reason not
about
to like the Bible
Jesus.
instead. I said that loud. I'm dead if you hear that.
Your very Christian family will run into your room right now.
I'm just trying to make good points here.
I will say that something Winter Jam did do right was have Skillet headline, because that's a good band.
I feel like if you just, yeah, again, if you just have a good soundtrack, then it's
A good
okay.
soundtrack is the basis for any world-changing movement, I think.
I'm stuck on that phrase right now.
Wait, on what?
Cultural reset.
Oh, cultural reset, yeah.
Yeah, no, what a good movie though. And Shrek. I don't remember if it's two or three, but also a good one.
Shrek 2 is the best
The
one.
one
That's the
that
one with
has the
Simon Cowell.
love that man. But also the ending scene, like when Prince Charming is supposed to marry Fiona, because the whole trickery thing happened and like Shrek is human or whatever. Like when he's going to go rescue Fiona from Prince Charming,
Hmm.
and Fairy Godmother breaks out into her song with her red shiny dress. Top 10 cinematic moments easily. That whole
Big facts.
scene,
Big
again,
facts.
if
Top tier.
Prince of Egypt had a scene like that, a movie, a number like that I could remember would have worked maybe.
So what it
Um,
all comes down to is Prince of Bro. You done messed up.
okay, we'll figure it out for them one day.
Where does Prince of Egypt go from here? How do they recover? A sequel? A reboot?
I think they don't. I think you just scratch it, start all over again.
Just throw it out the window.
The rough draft. I'm
Just eat
gonna
the rough draft. Monica, did you just say we have to eat the Prince of Egypt, the movie, or the being, the entity?
none of the above. Right? I'm gonna get yeeted. I'm gonna get yeeted.
You're gonna eat yourself.
I know. I think we've noticed this though in the past. Whenever I get too I don't want to say too comfortable with God, but get yeeted.
Whenever you let your hubris become your defining characteristic, things never do tend to go right.
I am Icarus. It's fine.
Flying too close to the sun.
Wait, no offense, but I'm different.
That's one of the best posts ever too. I love that one so much.
Rip to Icarus, but I'm different.
That would be a good header for you as well.
That one too, but I still want the, what do we say? Astral.
Can you astral project to God or something? Why not
No.
just astral project to God?
Why not? I mean, you might as
I
well.
think that's possible, but I think it's called prayer.
Maybe they should try that instead. Just pray, have someone pray for you.
Unbelievable.
Maybe they just need some love right now. Maybe they just want to see God because they're not feeling their lives.
Oh my God. I do think though we carry a lot more like power than we think in terms of like the energy. Like that's for sure. Like even
I
if
do.
it's small things, right? Like I think it's something as simple as like you said, like sometimes you get a little
To
too
Icarus.
too Icarusy, yeah, and all of a sudden things come crashing down. And it's not like you were doing something and you messed up. It's like the things that happen around you, like things that are beyond your control. Like it kind of takes a
Feel the same.
turn. And I think I talked about this, if not on this show, on the actual podcast, where like there's sometimes where you'll have a dream of something and then it'll happen, but there's also moments where it's like you've been there at some points too, where like we'll be talking about something or someone and then that person will show up like at the door just like out of nowhere, like surprise visit, and it's like, dude, how did that just happen? Haven't seen this kid in like a week.
True. Although with the dream ones, I will say I think if you think about something, if you're thinking about the dream, I think you increase your chances of actually it happening because you'll take steps to kind of make it happen, even if it's just
On one
subconscious.
hand, yes, but on the other hand, what about when it's something that you didn't know anything about, like me in fifth grade with the owl pellets? Like I have no explanation for that one. That's the one that I like hold tight to because it's like this is like my one token of proof that like I have no idea how this works.
I mean, we don't have no idea how anything works, but I know. Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But I do think you just like careful with that one because I feel like a lot of times people, something like that happens and then they want to not escalate, but like, well, actually, they
They
know
want
they
to
do
like
it.
will it into existence,
Yeah, they're like, oh my gosh, like, and like, if it
such
was
as
like
the
this,
government astral projecting.
again, it's just,
I don't know if I
again,
trust the government with astral projection, bro.
I don't trust. I feel like if anything, they'll just make the gods angry at us.
Already seems like they're kind of mad at us for something.
They are. This isn't gonna help. That's
It
us
kind of
actually trying to find them so that we can just fix this world.
it leans into a little bit into the discussion of free will versus predestined fate.
Yeah. Oof. That's a big topic there too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I know a lot of people go into are well, I hear it a lot in arguments when people are like, well, why doesn't God get involved in the world and whatnot? But it's like, no, we have free will.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
But
Is
to what
that
extent, you know?
yeah? Well, I mean, I do feel like there's certain things in our lives that we cannot control. But I think for the most part, we are in control of what our future is. You know?
Not sure in which again, I'm not sure in what show we've discussed this, but I'll ask you because it has come up before. Do you think that our free will extends to like what our like final moment is, or do you think we have control of how we get there?
Oh, I know this discussion. You know, I think it's like both, but then neither in a way, because I do think that there's certain events that would happen no matter what. But the thing is, like, they may or may not impact
I'd like
how you end.
yeah, right.
I
I'd like to think it's
honestly,
about the context of things because your ending could be like there will be a tree in front of you, right? But the context of that would be, is this a good thing or a bad thing, right? Like, are
mhm,
you did you fall out of a tree, or did you come up to sit in this tree to enjoy the sunset or something, you know?
yeah, and like, look, I think a good example of it is like take trauma or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Um, that can go like seven different ways, you know? It's not just like you experience a trauma and then you get over it, or you experience trauma and then you never get over it. You know, like there's so many shades of gray, and I feel like it's really hard to just say, oh, you know, what regardless of what you do, you end up at one thing, or you know, you kind of make your own destiny as you go, if you will.
Right.
Sounds really cheesy, but
Britney Spears, choose your own destiny.
disgusting. But I just think it depends on how you choose to react to certain things. Because you can also like choose to react in ways that you normally would not. You know, like if for one day you're just feeling particularly brave or particularly bold, you might, you know, do something life altering that you normally wouldn't have done. And so then, you know, it's so hard to say we're all meant to end up at this one place regardless of what happens.
Hmm.
You know, I just think that doesn't make sense. I mean,
That
and I
that
don't think it even, you know, like it's
hmm
just,
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
like that one very much either because it's kind of like it's about the journey, not the destination, and I'm like, shut up, just stop.
yeah,
Like,
like it just,
if you have no control over anything other than whether you enjoy this existence or not, then even if you do the most you can to make sure it's like a happy, peaceful life, like, what was the point? Like,
yeah,
there's a song that I like, and one of the lines is like, "I can't be living just to finally die."
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's one of my favorites.
I like that.
Yeah.
No, it's I think trying to also simplify it because I feel like that's what it does. It paints it as a very black and white
Hmm.
situation, ignoring the fact that so much gray exists in between it. You know,
Right.
and then it's just yeah, no, it's and it also I feel like changes for each person too because there's definitely people, you know, nothing wrong with it, but like people who are like dead set in what they've wanted to do and what they want to be since they were like I don't know, like three or whatever, you know.
Right.
And every decision that they do is based on that like end goal that they have. But then there's people who, like me, who like every other weekend it changes, you know. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
so it's I don't know. I think it's a bit naive to kind of try to put it into those two options. I forgot what the other thing you said was. Um, so yeah, that's no yeah. It's kind of my take on that because I don't
Again,
know.
very interesting conversation. So that's a glimpse of a conversation with Monica.
Yeah, I feel like we have these. I almost forgot we were like on a podcast for a second because I feel
It
like
feels like a genuine
uh,
convo because that's what it is.
this is literally just how our conversations go every other day.
And it's not like it's
Um,
all we talk about either, because we don't really talk a lot about religion and beliefs, especially just because, like, I guess our circle isn't very, like, into that type of discussion. But, like, I feel like anytime it does come up, it feels like a conversation worth having. So I'm glad that you chose these topics for the show, because we don't really get to talk about them a lot.
no, we don't. And yeah, no, I think and then also with this whole quarantine, there's so much time for thinking, unfortunately. Um,
Everything happens so much all the time.
I told you I had a little list of things in case I didn't think our conversations were gonna be hard to get out of us, but I was like, just in case.
Just in case.
Like, there's like a whole list of thoughts that we didn't even touch because
Do you want to
we
save them for another episode, or do you want to give us the rundown on them before we end for the night?
I can I'll give you a little something if you will.
Sure.
Because recently forgot what I was reading, but I had a thought. Um but about how I'd love to talk to. I think we briefly talked about this, and I've told you about it several times. But like how we have the ability to literally create gods. Um, we have whole cultures and civilizations made of with religions and things like that. But we can make them. We can make gods exist if we decide. If I decide tomorrow, I'm like, I'm gonna make this god, and these are gonna be our rules, and these are things. And if I can convince enough people to
To
believe with
believe
me,
it, yeah.
God created a god, and then we want to leave it, we kill off that god. It's just like it got my brain going
Right.
when I was reading. I think it was some religious book or something, but I was like, we think sometimes we think we're not powerful, we don't have the ability to do unearthly things, but at the same time, we are capable of coming up with religions and also killing off those religions. So I had
Right.
that,
We just kind of
and
do
then,
things as we please.
yeah, it's that was one of my thoughts. I'll just say one of my thoughts.
Yeah, and it ties in well to this combo as well.
Yeah, because I had that one in case it came up, but it wasn't coming up organically, so
You just wanted to mention it.
I,
It is
I
a good
did.
one because that's how like counter religions are made, right? Like that's why we have the whole what is it, the flying spaghetti monster thing? Have you heard
Flying
of that?
spaghetti. No, you
There's
lost
a
me.
group of mostly internet kids, right? But they have decided to refer to themselves as pastafarians, and they believe in the flying spaghetti monster, and one of their religious decisions is to wear a pasta strainer on their head as a helmet.
Well, there you go. It may be stupid, but they've done did it.
They done did it. It's a movement. It's a quote unquote religion.
So I think would be interesting to, I don't know, analyze religions in terms of like their origins
Yeah.
and see how they came to be. I don't know. We can make them up. We can choose to abandon them. What would be? Are there
I
abandoned
just
religions? That would be cool.
Yes, there are abandoned religions.
Yes.
Essentially all of the indigenous cultures, everything they believed in.
It's true. It's just, I don't know. That's just really cool. I think. You know.
Yeah, to me, like, I think my happy medium is just accepting that they all coexist. Somehow that's not tangible for the human mind to comprehend, and someday we'll figure it out.
Someday we shall figure it out.
But, like, to me, it makes sense. That's why there's so many things in common, and I think where it deviates is literally just word of mouth. That's it.
I am proud. I have that thought a lot too. I'm like, I think a lot of these religions are very similar, and it's just the practice and the medium in which they worship through.
Yeah, because like even Christianity, there's not like an agreement, a consensus, if you will, on what we're supposed to believe because there's been so many years and so many languages of translations, different regions, different, I guess, things that people thought were important to follow. Hence, Catholicism versus literally every Protestant religion, which I won't even get into that.
That that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole podcast in its own.
Joel
Okay, yeah.
Osteen, I'm coming for you.
Don't even get me started on that man. I don't like that man. I should not. You shouldn't be rich as a pastor. That's
How
literally
does
not
that
your
make
job.
sense? How does it
That's
make it
not
make
your job
sense?
description.
Like, okay, Pastor, I see you in your Bentley. How about the kids that you went to help on a mission trip? What are they riding around in?
Yeah, no, I've seen his house. I was like, you humble servant of God. Yes, I see it.
Like, not saying you gotta be dirt poor, but also, like, read the room!
The vibes.
The
It's not
vibes.
the vibes. Vibe check. Let's vibe check Joel Osteen.
It's a vibe. You're gonna get vibe checked from God, is what's gonna happen.
I feel like I would pass the vibe check.
Is that the millennial or the Gen Z way of saying you're gonna get into heaven? You die and you face God at the gates of heaven, and he says, "Vibe check."
Get excited.
This conversation is deteriorating rapidly. I think we should call it a
Started
night.
off with such
We started off with such like a solid base.
conversation, and then we're talking about vibe checks with God. You know, I will say that I think. Okay, wait, I don't. Okay, I'm gonna try to say it into words. I like You know when you can like see words in your head and you got the idea in your head?
It's the vibe.
Vocalizing it is different. But I do think God changes to the time. Um, like in terms of like we get different versions of the Bible that we can understand, and there's different things that fundamentally are the same,
He's
just
not the God we
interpretation.
need, but the one we deserve. God knows might be for referencing Batman in your name. Do you think
Oh,
God's listening to this podcast?
God always listens to us.
Do you
So
think he's
yes,
do you think he
he,
subscribed?
I think he subscribed when he made all of this.
That's so sweet. All right. On that note,
Subscribe to Carla's channel
thank you,
instead.
Monica. If you
You're welcome.
subscribe, you get a cute little animation on the screen, just so you know.
There you go. Why wouldn't you do it, everyone listening? Not the
Um,
world.
Facts. Follow the show here. Follow it on Twitter at PODKASTXK. And join the Discord if you haven't already. It's like a chat room with different little group chats. So it's really fun. I put the commands in the chat, but I don't know if the bot works because it didn't work last time. But the Discord link is in my profile, so you can join it there.
Everyone do that.
Monica, do you have anything you want to do you have anything you want to plug?
Listen to Carla. I, I just I don't know. No.
All right, solid.
Just
You can follow Monica through astral projection. Just sense the vibe.
yeah, just be good, man. I don't know.
Be good, man. I'm gonna start doing thumbnails for the show with my favorite quote. This one's gonna be good, man.
Yeah.
Love
I
to
got
see it.
nothing. Don't be Icarus, I guess.
Also, solid advice. All right. On that note, thanks for hanging. This has been Quarantine with a K. I'm your host, Carla with a K. Signing off. I can't wait to be back in the real studio. I hope I get to be back in the real studio. I don't even know what's going on with that.
You can just tell people to get closer to the mic.
I feel like that would be counterproductive if we're trying to avoid coronavirus.
True. Never mind. Carla will not be telling people to get closer to the mic this
I
time.
feel like y'all might have to wear masks in the studio. I'm not 100% on that, but
Put a little mask on the little microphone.
everyone has like their own personal mic cover. That might not be the worst idea I've ever heard.
You're
Thank you
I'm
for
full of
that.
good ideas, Carla. You just gotta ask.
Thank you, thank you. All right, I think I'm gonna cut the stream here because I don't know what more to say. Thanks for hanging in the chat. Join us next week for new nonsense, maybe new guests. Stay tuned. Same time, same channel. Bye.
Is it done?